So, welcome back. I see some people have had to leave, probably some local colleagues who were in the talks, but as long as we have those ones who will summarize the workshops, we're perfect. Just in our case, I was in the workshop 1, and originally when planning all this, we were a bit worried that the workshops may be a bit too long. But in our case, at least, it turned out that we probably did not really have enough time. But we found some ideas, summarized some ideas. So I would, to make it a bit more conversational, if possible, I would ask the, I guess, 3 people who will summarize to even sit on the stage. And we can start discussing a bit together. So who will summarize the workshops? Please. Okay, but Bill, yeah, I think, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. That works out perfectly, I think. and just probably before we start this, it would be great if, just in case, Giulio, could you just quickly stand up? We want to see you all. Because Giulio is going to guide us later as a group, when you're finished, to the Magazzini del Sale. So you have to follow this man. Huh? Okay, it's not far from here. It's 2 bridges and a few hundred meters, and we're going to be there. Huh? But first comes this. Okay, so shall we just go by the order of the groups? Yes, so 3 microphones. Matthew, please start.
Testing. Okay. Hi. Matt Payne from Great Britain Pavilion, and again, really lovely to see people here I've not met before. We had a very interesting discussion. I'll just preface it with it's a bit of a quote that I like, which is, the map is not the territory. I think it was Alfred Korbusky, a Polish-American philosopher. So when we talk about the map, words, maps, models, the territory is life, the planet, is us. And I think with our workshop, the territory were the stories that Giulio, Annabella told us about the work they're doing, and that was the inspiration, I think, for a lot of our conversation about materials. So, materials, we create a lot of waste. We saw the slides earlier. So our conversation was about how to have a more circular relationship with the materials that are used in the Biennale. And we heard from Giulio, a fantastic example of Re-Biennale, the work that they do with some of the pavilions. The Swiss pavilion have already demonstrated that you can make an exhibition out of old exhibitions. And the German pavilion, who I think we will invite up here in a second to talk about their architecture proposal for next year, which is extremely exciting and relevant to this conversation. So we heard about the people who were already doing this, and we obviously were listening. And then we heard from people who are the beneficiaries in Venice of some of the reused materials, so the second life of exhibition materials. And I think the first message, I suppose, that was transmitted in this workshop was that when we become aware of these projects and the second life, when we see these examples, it's actually, that's the way in for many of us. That's the way we can start to engage with this subject, because a lot of commissioners, we see it all from the perspective of cost and the mess, and you all see it as the mess in front of the pavilions, but actually looking at the positive stories about where this material ends up. I think that was the first major insight, was that there are actually projects happening as an island being transformed into a sort of an eco-experiment. That's bad paraphrasing, but there are things happening using materials. So there were a few ideas around how these materials could be used in a more circular way. We've got the example of the name of your company, Annabelle. I've got it written down here. I've got it written down somewhere. Concula. Okay, and we heard from the GGC earlier. So these are existing platforms, and one of the key outcomes of our discussion was that as individual participants, we feel that these platforms are there to be used, and we would like an opportunity to sign up, if you like, out of our own choice into these platforms, because when we sign up, we get to contribute to the system of reuse, and we also get to benefit from materials that are being handled in this way rather than disposed of. And I think there is a very clear link between that and the sort of projects and the beneficiaries in Venice, the city of Venice. There's a very good diagram, which probably, Sandy, you can share at the end, which is the diagram about the economy in Venice. There's a nasty red arrow pointing to trash, and then there's a nice circle in the middle, which is effectively the relationship between the commissioned work. There's ReBiennale's position in that, which is of the sort of translator and medium for reuse, and then there are the beneficiaries of those projects, the second lives. And we all find ourselves in a different part of that circle. Some of us aren't even in the circle. Some of us have been in the circle twice, and we'd like to do it again. So I think as individuals, we see where we could perhaps enter this circle, and many people in our group were talking about the challenges of entering that circular economy. The budget, we have all procurement processes in our individual institutions, but it feels like there's an opportunity here to all take a step forward and put something on the table. And I think I would like to hand over to a colleague from the German pavilion who has something interesting to say about this subject.
Yeah. So. Okay. So thank you for the nice sum up of our workshop. I'm Petter Krag. I'm one of the 8 curators for the next German pavilion. And to explain a bit shortly, we have now been cataloging the material from the Art Biennale, and we are now working together here with the ReBiennale and Conkler to build up a database where this material can be made available for the next Art Biennale. So in doing this, we are turning the German pavilion into a temporary storage space as part of our exhibition. And there are a lot of challenges in this process because we have to contact all the different commissioners, curators, and our goal is then to make this exhibition to show this possibility of reusing the material and to turn this maybe into something that can be brought further, that it can get a new life and continue this kind of circular system that one could all ideally reuse the material from every biennale to build up the next biennale. So that was in short.
This is often a very uncomfortable moment when you were actually in a group of 20 people working for 3 hours, discussing things, having a very nice and intelligent and sometimes even in-depth dialogue about the things that we are trying to do or achieve or the questions that we're asking, and then one of them has to summarize it and actually making sense of all the notes that I took. And if you take a look at my notebook, it's full of circles, arrows, things. So I will try to do my best. We were in the group where Superuse Studios actually guided us through their value system game. they called it. And you can see one of the examples of it lying down here on the stage. We separate in two groups. I will just make some just short notes, I think, things that got into my mind. So what Superuse is trying to do is building ecosystems. And how they do it is they work with flows: physical, energy, and value. Those are the three flows that they are working with. And one of the things that they made clear in their presentation is actually the more diverse elements you use in the ecosystem, the richer and stronger it becomes. And also the more connections you can actually make between all the flows and between the things that you like to reuse and recycle. One of the things that they proposed, just to turn our thinking process upside down. What if you're starting with materials and working with it instead of starting with the design? Often we start, it's an idea, and then we have the designer, and then we have somebody who draws it, and then, then we have to find all the materials with it. What they do, they start with the materials, and I think, or I assume that what will happen in the German pavilion probably will also maybe stimulate that kind of process. What kind of materials is there, and what can we make of that? For me, there were a few key questions, and one of it is how to benefit from each other's presence in Venice. And that's, I think, what we have at this very moment. We are all present here. We chose to be here, either travel, especially for this occasion, to Venice, or live here, work here. But how do we benefit from it? How do we benefit, and also how does the city benefit from it? Okay, we separated in two groups to play the value system game. One of the groups was focusing on materials, mainly material, and actually we focused on humans and what kind of human labor is necessary to actually come from the first commission to the presentation in the pavilion. And while we were already diving deep into the conversation, one of us asked the question, but why are we here? Who are we addressing with the things that we are doing? And who are we talking to? And actually that question, it's a kind of fundamental question to the things that we are doing in Venice, the things that we are presenting in our pavilions. And that was also why we started to do it differently. So what is the kind of impact that we want to make with our presentation? Why do we even make a presentation, find that it is necessary? It's not just, because we have a pavilion, so we will make something. No, we are here with a purpose. We like to do something. Let me quickly go through my notes. There are a few things that were mentioned in the materials workshops, kind of obstacles to achieve certain things. And I think what Jane Mosto also asked Victoria in the beginning, what kind of obstacles do you encounter during this process? And that's not it's not, of course, to be negative, but it's also to be realistic in what you can achieve. And also, if you actually can come over those obstacles, you might also achieve more. So, a few of those obstacles. We cannot leave the pavilions empty after the biennial. We have to, we have to leave. Just turn it around. We have to leave them empty. We cannot leave the stuff there. Because if you can do that, you can actually pile everything, box everything, and take it away when you're actually entering for the new biennial. For example, time is, of course, a very important obstacle that was already mentioned. Labor force and the contract of local labor forces. That's not really an obstacle, but actually to know all the regulations that are behind it, and also knowing how and where to actually engage with local labor forces, I think is important. the energy-losing pavilions as well, and I think the Dutch pavilion is a beautiful example of it. It's a fantastic example, but it's actually inside is outside. So there are walls, but in terms of sustainability, it's not sustainable at all. So in terms of finding the place or the places in the process where you lose the most value, I think that is an interesting question, at least it is to me, and I hope for you as well, also for your own processes. Aya, where do we lose the most value in this process? I will not answer that because there's a lot, I think, to say about that, but I think that's, well, an important question to answer. One other thing is what I think is really important is the knowledge sharing. So even the knowledge that we gained during these 2 days, but also the knowledge sharing throughout the year, and sharing that knowledge, of course, among commissioners. I think that is one of the fantastic things about this group of commissioners, but also sharing it with commissioners that are not yet part of this group, people that you know of. They will be joining us. Actually, to have some documents circulating online in which you can find information that you need as a commissioner, as an institute, as a producer, as a curator. This is how things are working in Venice. And maybe the final thing is how to find ways to invest also in Venice. What can we then do? Invest in of course, the local people, but also in the city of Venice. What is it that we can do beyond all the good intentions that we all have? Because of course we don't know, at least we as global or foreign commissioners don't know exactly what is happening on the ground. So how to maybe move beyond that. I will leave it at that. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. You will hear a lot of the same things coming through, I think. We are workshop 3, and we were looking at how local initiatives, how we as commissioners, curators, institutions can, and the Biennale, sort of in the biggest sense, although not in the institutional sense, can work together with local initiatives for the better to ensure social and environmental sustainability. We had presentations from the Austrian curators who are looking at how they can, who are quite a provocative and exciting proposal about working with the community in St. Helena. And not without some difficulties, but and actually documenting that process and that some of those obstacles becoming part of the exhibition itself. And we also then heard from Tommaso from the housing activism group. I think he's just there. He is, and the work that they're starting to do with the German pavilion. And then also building on Jane DeMosto's keynote this morning as We Are Here Venice, sort of looking at some local initiatives and what is our role as individuals and institutions that come here each year, and the role that we play both on the global stage but also to really work with the local community. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Raul.
Yeah, thank you. Our discussions were really very fruitful and very beneficial, I hope, for all of our group members. And so shortly, what we can bring up there is the collaboration can be seen on the 3 levels. First, what Sebra already described, the connection with the locals, how we can be more useful for the locals, then for the connection with Biennale, and third, for connection between each other. To describe a little bit with local connection, it's there was a broad idea up to have some database for the solution for those who have already some some ideas or some will. And when, of course, our colleagues, or when we are coming here to Venice with our collaboration idea, it's need to be something well thought before. Or on the other hand, we actually heard one good example when the artistic idea was kind of sourced or was inspired from the local need. That's as well how we can do things, because it's very important when we will come here that with our kind of help, that this help need to be needed. That's kind of, it can't be like a forced. So that's it's need, this help need to be expected, and that's needed. And of course, that's very important keywords is the more organized and structured collaboration between us, between pavilions and for locals. There was time shared and discussed about the collaboration with universities. There was some universities representatives. There is around 30 students, as we heard, and there is a lot of knowledge brought during this 6-month period, and as well, there's maybe a way to find a way more systematic and thought through collaboration between the pavilions. Not because we all, not all, but many of us doing the talks and discussion and things, but those are kind of bits of pieces on the field, and maybe if there is a way we can organize and structure this information, that would be for the local universities more useful, as well for us maybe as a commissioners, as the leaders of those pavilions, to get some good way of collaboration and ideas from the locals. And because really there is an extraordinary amount of knowledge brought here during those months, 6 months, and that's kind of very important to use as much as possible those valuable information as possible. Then a little bit we spend the time with even maybe a bit more than a little bit time to discuss about the connection between Biennale. That's of course very important for all of us. Maybe we have a different perspective and expectation, but on the other hand, I think that we agreed that there is a good this bottom-up initiative is really good, and we can use those the ideas to achieve as well as quite much, quite a lot, I would say, not much, but even a lot, without with collaboration what we do have. Of course, we because they have power, they have money, but we see that if there is very important part that we will increase, we need to increase our network, because still there is not all of us of pavilions who is on the Biennale, not here. The big amount, but not all of us, and that's we need to continue the work to bring more pavilions, more countries into our network, and so we would say that rather we are optimistic to this and see that this evolution. The collaboration, and then third, between even that our target is to work with local. It's very important to as well mention that collaboration between pavilions as well can be multilateral and it's in the end of the day, it's beneficial for us, but it will contribute as well to local scene. So those the third level of collaboration between pavilions need to be as well developed and find a kind of practical way how it can be done in the future. Stefan kind of brought up 3 S's, and I would add fourth S is the idea how the collaboration need to look like in the future. He proposed a systemic, successful, sustainable, and I would add more substantial collaboration. And I would say that the organizers are really very quick. They made practical. They made a practical example of how this collaboration need to look like in the future. That's, yes, cookies. Well done, Sandy. Thank you. So it's. Separate, do we have something to add?
I think we should finish on that. I had the summary of the practical actions, but Raul has already said them, so I will stop there.
Okay. So I think it's a setting for a discussion, and if there's questions, more inputs. Of course, I just realized on the stage we have representations of the commissioners, no locals. So maybe if the locals would like to add and discuss, and I think it's really the moment to open a discussion. Huh?
Too much comfortable. Yeah, what to say? That we have good instructions and direction to continue tomorrow, and for sure we have some of the issues and the talking are overlapping the main theme. So we see there are some main theme. Collaboration with the local, the Second Life is one very important, the extension to the other pavilions, and of course the extension, as Raul said, we need to enlarge this network of collaboration to the other pavilion. We have to enlarge this network of collaboration, of inspiration with the local communities. For now, we had 2, 3, 4 examples of social project who needs help to win a battle for Venice. So we need more of those projects. So this will be the job for the local community. So we have our job, you have your, and I hope in this next month, so the work shouldn't stop to this days of meeting, but we have to think a process to be continued for the next month. Collaboration between the curators, collaboration between the association, collaboration between the university, because I've seen a lot of interest. I thank so much for the researcher, for the professor, for the students who came. And I believe it's very important to join all those minds for a powerful changing. Yeah.
Stefan? No? Okay. Yes.
I think your colleague was in our group this morning and she mentioned that also you try to be involved before exhibitions are designed even, or you try to help design them, because maybe we would end up with exhibitions that are not drilled, for instance, are not glued, or perhaps we could also work on things like this so that if we return the materials or if the materials stay, they can actually be used as a whole. I mean, how far are you with the exhibitions that you're collaborating on?
We were talking in our room about the need to specify the material, about the construction, the production of a pavilion. You have the need of the materials. So the materials, as we said, they can come from new suppliers. So you can buy new materials, but we have to focus. Those new materials have to be sustainable, has to be material appropriated for a further reuse, and also we can use recycled material for building the pavilions. And but we need the pavilion to be built properly for the correct dismantling. Otherwise, but any other could dismantle them. So it's very important. So I think tomorrow we will have the task to write some point very important, from the production to the management, to the second life. Yeah.
I think it's tricky to draw too many conclusions when we've still got a whole nother day to be together. But something I'm hearing is that there's two sets of issues, shall we say, that do somewhat overlap, but not entirely. One, and it's to do with what I said this morning about Venice as a microcosm. So the thing about not making exhibitions with glue, with materials that can be recycled, well, I hope this is something that you're all thinking about in everything that you do, not just specific to when you come to Venice. And that links to the fact, to what I think I heard coming out of all the different groups, is that it's not just about the two-way relationship between the national pavilions and Venice, but also the sharing of information between the pavilions of just how to do what you do better. And then there's also the issue of the specificities of Venice that will be taken into consideration more going forwards after the whole day of tomorrow.
More statements? Well, I think probably that was the perfect final statement. Thank you, Jane. Thank you all for the summaries. And now just two things. One, to repeat that we will go to see the Magazzini del Sale now. Those who don't know them, those who of course know them very well, they are happy to probably do something else. But what is very important tonight at 7:30, everybody is happily invited to come here for the dinner. It's going to be a buffet we prepare with Orient Experience, also a local company from Venice. So it would be great if you join us. I think there should be a bit of time in between if some people need to go to their place where they stay or so to refresh themselves. So the visit's not going to be too long at the Magazzini. A little break, and then we meet here 7:30 at the Palazzo again. And tomorrow we start a little bit later, 9:15, again here in the morning. Was it too early? I'm sorry. Okay, so I would suggest, because we have a wardrobe with coats and everything, till everybody is ready, that we leave in about 10 minutes. Okay, thank you.